The following is an interview with someone who used to be friends with Bryan Kohberger. They went to high school together. He tells us information of a past addiction that Bryan had, as well as the way that he treated people. He also talks about Bryan's family. All right, thank you so much for speaking with us. So the first question...
No problem.
Yeah. So the first question I wanted to ask you is, did Bryan Kohberger show any signs of anger issues during the time that you knew him?
Yeah, he would definitely get angry sometimes, but not in like outrageous, I'm yelling and screaming kind of way. He would get bothered, and it would kind of cause him to like prod you, like he was picking on you in a sort of way.
And it's my understanding you had said that you haven't actually spoken with him since, I believe you said 2014?
Yeah, it was around that time.
And was that, I noticed in some photos, he was a much heftier kid. Was that about the time you knew him, or had, when did he start having the major weight change?
It was sometime after I met him that he started to lose a lot of weight. When I first met him, he was like a really heavy set. I think upwards of 300 pounds, if not a little bit over. And somewhere along the course of our friendship, and over the course of a year or so, he lost like over 100 pounds, maybe close to 150. So yeah, I knew him when he was heavier, and I was his friend during the time that he lost a lot of weight.
Oh wow! What was his? If you can share, or if you know, what was his family life like? Did he have like a normal childhood that you knew?
So his parents are honestly genuinely some of the kindest people I've ever met in my whole life. I can't remember their names. I know they both worked at our school. I think his dad was a custodian and his mom was a substitute teacher. From what I could tell, he had like a I guess you would say a normal family life. I mean, his parents were genuinely kind people. I'm pretty sure he had a sister. If memory serves me, I've met her at least a couple times, but I don't remember much about her. I think by the time I was already his friend, she might have already been like an adult and was in and out of the house intermittently.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And was there any sort of interests that he had that looking back now, knowing what he did, you at the time maybe you thought could have been odd or unusual, but didn't think much of it? But looking back, is there any sort of hobbies or interests that he had that maybe kind of stood out as being possibly odd? Or
I'm trying to think about anything odd. I mean, as far as just like his regular hobbies go, I mean, he played video games like any other dude, but as far as his personality goes and things that would like get his mind going, he's very analytical about things, and he'd like to theorize about like how to, like, I guess, build things in some ways. I don't know that I've ever actually seen him build something, but he liked to at least like sketch out ways that he could build things, and but yeah, he was very analytical, and I think
that sucks.
I'm sorry he did that to you.
It's okay.
And when you mentioned analytical, that reminded me, I don't know if you've seen yet, but on Reddit, this screenshot's going around about a survey that he made about criminals and just asking questions to criminals about why they did what they did and like feelings that they had or emotions and stuff. And I see what you mean by like that analytical kind of, I don't know, side of him. But in terms of him having a criminology background, I don't know, I found that to be so interesting, just kind of odd.
So did I. I found that to be really interesting too. I just saw that post today, and looking back on it, I can kind of see some similarities there between the way he was when I knew him. When he was analytical, he liked to like analyze why people have certain emotions. I remember he was an awkward guy in the sense that he didn't always understand why people would react to things the way that they do. Almost like he didn't understand human emotion properly.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny. You don't see these things when they're happening, but kind of hindsight 2020, it seems a little bit more.
In high school, how was he like? Like, was he super social? Did he have tons of friends, or was he more kind of introverted, or kind of kept to himself, like nerdy, or what was he like in high school?
He had a relatively, like, I think he had a good sized friend group. It was me and just like a couple other people for a while, but after we stopped being friends, I know he moved on to, he moved on to another circle of friends that were more focused around like, physical training. I know he was really physically active, and he had a lot of friends in that sort of scene. But so he was, I guess he could be social. He could be normal. So when people say like he was just this laid back guy, I guess I can see why they would think that. But yeah, I guess he just was that kind of friend that you would have, and if you didn't know the side of him that I knew, then you would just think, okay, he's just this quirky dude with this unique sense of humor. But I don't know. To me, it just seemed like that sense of humor was just a side of him that was like really insecure and didn't really understand people, but he would figure out things just by analyzing people and just use what he learned to fit in.
That, when you're saying that, I'm kind of, I'm just sitting here thinking about it, and it's like he's almost he sounded like almost a chameleon, like he's adjusting to, I don't know, just
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I can't really be in his head. I'm not an armchair psychologist.
But that was just kind of, how he dropped a whole bunch of weight and then just moved on to a whole class of friends. It's just, that just, it seems like something must have happened to trigger such a, I don't know.
Another thing that your sister mentioned was something about an addiction, like a heroin addiction that he had. Did you know anything about that? On you, and when he was mean. Do you have any other memories you have where he did something that was just like made you feel bad, or kind of, I don't know? And
I guess the one thing that sticks out for some reason, because it was like really random assault on my character, and I know for a time he struggled with something that he called visual migraines, and for me, I didn't really understand what that was, and but he would talk about it a lot. He would talk about how there was always problems with his vision or something like that, but he didn't wear glasses, but there was always a problem with his vision. I remember one time we were all in my living room, and he brought up this weird fact that he said he never actually experienced having a headache, and that was strange to me. So I asked him, but I thought you had visual migraines. How can you say you've never had a headache if you have these? And at that point, his immediate response was, sometimes I just think like you're the worst friend in the world. And I didn't understand why he said that. And I guess the reason was that visual migraines don't cause headaches, but he somehow expected me to know that. He just assaulted my character out of nowhere, and I was just so shocked by it. And that's something that like really was a turning point, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
What was if you don't mind me asking, just for my personal, curiosity, what was the actual final straw that just you're just like, he's just not, I'm done?
The final straw was one day we were just like in his house at his kitchen table, and it was me and I think two other friends who I just want to leave out of this. They don't want anything to do with him anymore, and I don't blame them. But it was just Bryan just relentlessly like picking on me, basically insinuating that I was like a female sissy type kid, and he was just relentless about it. He just kept going about it like he's never gone at it before, and he that just wasn't the normal way that he would ever bully me, but it had finally gotten to that point where it was just like this pathetic attempt to just demasculate me, like the stereotypical bully you see in movies type thing. And at that point, I've had enough of it. I just shut down. I stopped speaking, and I stopped responding to anyone in that house. I let the rest of the night carry on without speaking to anyone. And after I left his house that day, I don't think I ever went back.
Oh wow. That's awful.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, even third hand, like, did any of your friends ever talk about possibly him having or witnessing him ever having like an outburst of rage or anything? I'm just trying to figure out where all this came from. I mean, this is like brutal.
As far as like a major outburst of rage, no outburst of rage really sticks in my head, like him like being overly violent. It's just like he wasn't overly like full of rage. He was just mean-spirited all of the time. And yeah, he would have that temper to the point where he would just like, he would get a little rough sometimes, but he was never just like completely out of control.
Right.
I mean, that's just my experience. I think I might have heard somebody else say that he had turned into that sort of person at one point or another, but I don't personally remember ever seeing that.
Do you know if he was associated with any fraternity or anything like that? Any clubs? Heard through the grapevine? I know you haven't talked to him in like 9 years, but just...
No, after I graduated high school, I didn't really hear anything that he was up to, except for one time a few years back. He was working security, and my mom he bumped into my mom or something like that, and they had a little conversation. That's the last I've heard about him until today.
Yeah. And in high school, did he date anyone, or what was his interactions like with women? Like, I'm just curious about that.
I think I remember him having, when I was friends with him, I think I remember him like kind of having a girlfriend, barely. I don't know how to like describe that. I mean, I know he was like associating with a girl that he was interested in by the time that I was friends with him, but I don't remember that going anywhere. I know that after I was friends with him, he had a couple girlfriends, but I don't really know that side of his life.
Okay. Yeah. Just curious. I'm trying to think of something else.
I think that we covered.
Yeah, we covered a lot. That's...
We appreciate.
We really appreciate it.
We wanted an insight into him just a little bit. Just look behind the curtains, because, you know, I got to be honest with you. This is even just sitting with the parents. You know, I was crying. They're crying.
Yeah.
This was something the most horrific I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
All that his family has had to put up with, like, for all these years with the drug addiction, and now this is just... Wow. His parents are the kindest people, and I can't help but just feel so horrible for them.
Wow.
Oh God. Wow. That's... Yeah, like, you just, you know, showed a side of him that no one knew.
Yeah.
And...
his poor parents.
Yeah.
And they've had to deal with all this. They just... and you said you think he might have had an older sister, but you're not sure.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing his sister's Facebook page at one point. I think I might have only met her like once or twice,
Gotcha.
So I don't really remember too much about her.
School, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've heard a lot of people say that he was just this laid back guy, and I'm sure the friend groups that he later had, that may have very well been the case. But from my perspective, I mean, yeah, I knew he was kind of a bad guy based on the way he treated me. I knew he wasn't a good person, but I still didn't think he was this bad. Like, this was a total surprise to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shock.
Yeah, it's
Well, we
wild.
appreciate your time, Tom. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
If it wasn't for viewers like you, traveling the country with my friends would not be possible to cover these cases. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Until next time.